10 Celebrities that Hollywood will not cast again. While Hollywood is a place where dreams come true, for some celebrities the dream is turned into a nightmare. Here are 10 celebrities that Hollywood will not cast again. Number 1. Charlie Sheen. Through his decades in Hollywood, Charlie Sheen has lived a life of drama both on and off the screen. In 2011, he was the highest paid actor on TV with his show 2.5 Men, earning nearly $2 million an episode. CBS blew the doors off the competition every week with his witty repartee and writing. Sheen played a character who was a classic drinker and womanizer, even named Charlie. Ratings soared. While the show relished its success, Sheen's life off-camera wasn't so glamorous. Quite the opposite, in fact. Battling both mental health and drug addiction, his life became a roller coaster. With a decade-long history of rotating door of women and multiple broken engagements, things weren't looking any more stable in 2010. He pleaded guilty to domestic violence charges and continued to battle drug addiction. He had an outburst on the radio and complained about his relationship with Chuck Lorre in the show. He said he didn't have an addiction and that the only thing I'm addicted to right now is winning. The show ultimately canceled the rest of the episodes and put him on hiatus. Later in a TV interview with Good Morning America, Sheen went on a bizarre tirade about how he is not bipolar, but he is winning everywhere. With a lit cigarette in hand, the interviewer asked him the last time he took drugs. He doesn't remember and then ultimately says, "I was banging 7-gram rocks," when referring to a party and drug use. "I got tiger blood, man." Sheen's odd grandstanding continued with drug-fueled nights and days with adult actresses whom he called goddesses. If that wasn't enough controversy, he made anti-Semitic comments on air. Hollywood has not touched Charlie in over a decade. Number 2. Mel Gibson. When it comes to Hollywood, it's hard to think of the 80s and 90s without Mel Gibson. Playing a depressed, reckless detective, he took the world by storm with his performance in Lethal Weapon, playing opposite Danny Glover. His blockbuster opportunities continued when he played William Wallace in Braveheart. On opening weekend, that film grossed $9.9 million in the United States. Worldwide, the film grossed $210 million and was the 13th highest grossing film of 1995. For decades, it felt as though the thick-haired heartthrob could do no wrong. He starred in a wide variety of films, from action to romantic comedies like What Women Want. It seemed like everything he touched was gold, grossing millions at the box office. However, that all took a hard turn in 2006 when police pulled over a belligerent Gibson who was driving his Lexus along the Pacific Coast Highway. TMC reported this now famous incident, which states that police found a bottle of tequila in his Lexus. The film star became increasingly difficult to manage and tried to run away while yelling that he owned Malibu. The TMC report continued to say Gibson blurted out a barrage of anti-Semitic remarks about effing Jews. Gibson yelled out, "The Jews are responsible for all the wars in the world." Gibson then asked, "Are you a Jew?" Furthermore, the police department tried to cover up the horrendous racist remarks, sparking further controversy into the already enormous scandal. You'd think that this episode would put a tamper on his behavior. But, alas, Gibson continued to spew hatred toward the Jewish community. In 2020, Winona Ryder, who identifies as Jewish, told Forbes that he called her an oven dodger. His long history with domestic abuse, racist commentary, has ostracized him from large production companies in Hollywood, leaving him trying to work for streaming companies like Hulu. Number 3. Katherine Heigl. For years, fans raved about her performance in Grey's Anatomy, earning her accolades and recognition. She made her way to the big screen and made us swoon with romantic comedies. Who didn't love Jane in 27 Dresses? The hardworking and considerate assistant whose loyalty landed her in a bridesmaid dress every weekend. While this film showed her as a character who bends over backwards for others despite her own needs, her reputation in Hollywood is a polar opposite. The actress has been labeled as difficult. Some say it's due to how she's treated writers. When nominated for an Emmy for her work on Grey's Anatomy, she withdrew consideration for the award, stating that she felt that the writing didn't serve her character well. Later, she shared her thoughts on how the film Knocked Up was a little sexist because of the differences of how the men and women were portrayed. Heigl went on the Today Show to discuss being labeled as difficult by Hollywood. I may have said a couple of things you didn't like, but then that escalated to the she's ungrateful, then that escalated to she's difficult, and that escalated to she's unprofessional. What is your definition of difficult? Somebody with an opinion that you don't like? Now, I'm 42, and that pisses me off. Once upon a time, she was swimming in job offers. Now, the actress is lost at sea, grasping for offers to save her drowning career. In the film The Big Wedding in 2017, she starred opposite Robert De Niro, Susan Sarandon, and Diane Keaton. Instead of this being a life raft, it bombed at the box office. The film made a measly $7.5 million in its opening weekend. Making matters worse, Heigl was nominated for Worst Supporting Actress at the 34th Golden Raspberry Awards. Yikes! Number 4, Cameron Diaz. When you think of the early 2000s, there are several things that come to mind: frosted pink lipstick, dangerously low-rise jeans, and Cameron Diaz. She was in everything from starring as Mary and using the unmentionable item as hair gel in There's Something About Mary, to the pastel cardigan-wearing Kimmy in My Best Friend's Wedding, to being a kick-ass angel in Charlie's Angels. Cameron Diaz owned Hollywood. Everything she touched turned to gold, and you couldn't turn a corner without running into one of her movies being promoted. She continued to cruise through fandom with heartwarming movies like Shrek and The Holiday. But about a decade later, she didn't seem to have the magic touch anymore. Like a batter at home plate, she just kept swinging. Every now and then, she'd get a single, but most of the time, she just kept missing the mark entirely. 2008's What Happened in Vegas was a flop, as was Sex Tape, which she made in 2014, and there's been some broad speculation as to why the actress isn't landing roles anymore. Did she peak a little too early? Is she retiring? Is she focused on some other projects like writing? Some call a spade and say she just became bad at picking scripts. Whatever the reason, we just aren't seeing her like we used to. Number 5, Kirk Cameron. So who didn't love watching Mike Seaver, the wisecracking kid with a quip for just about anything life hurled his way, was a fun-loving kid on the hit sitcom Growing Pains. So whatever happened to that curly-haired teen that drove Dr. Jason and Maggie Severe crazy? Why didn't Kirk Cameron's career skyrocket to new levels with such a successful role underneath him? When he turned 17 years old, he became a born-again Christian. Still acting on Growing Pains, he began to discuss plot lines with writers and became a critic of the writing, wanting to tone down anything he deemed as inappropriate. After the show was canceled, he left the entertainment industry, even cutting ties with his former co-stars. The former actor has come under fire for his ultra-conservative views on homosexuality. On March 2, 2012, Cameron stated on CNN's Piers Morgan Tonight, when asked about homosexuality, that it is, quote, unnatural, it's detrimental, and ultimately destructive to so many of the foundations of civilization, end quote. Even though the former actor is not a part of Hollywood, he received a backlash from gay rights activists and celebrities, including Roseanne Barr, Craig Ferguson, Jesse Tyler Ferguson, and 2 of his former Growing Pains co-stars, Tracy Gold, who played his sister Carol, and Alan Thicke, who played his dad, Jason. Despite his grand exit from Hollywood, he still dabbles in acting here and there with small projects or cameos where he will appear as himself. Number 6, Roseanne Barr. She told Norm Macdonald on his show Quarantining with Norm Macdonald that she is researching and filing the perfect lawsuit. Norm clarified, asking if she's suing the production company that canceled her show. She said no, and it's toward Hollywood and what happened to her. So she is, of course, referring to the now infamous tweet that resulted in ABC canceling her show Roseanne. The now deleted tweet called Barack Obama's former White House advisor, Valerie Jarrett, Muslim Brotherhood and Planet of the Apes had a baby. While Roseanne apologized to the American public and Valerie Jarrett on Twitter, she said she was leaving Twitter. Roseanne's talent agency, ICM Partners, cut her loose as a client. ET Online reporting that ICM Partners emailed their employees this message: "We are all greatly distressed by the disgraceful and unacceptable tweet from Roseanne Barr this morning. What she wrote is antithetical to our core values, both as individuals and as an agency. Consequently, we have notified her that we will not represent her. Effective immediately, Roseanne Barr is no longer a client." The pain didn't stop there. Her co-stars came out and shared their disappointment and were quick to claim that her views did not align with theirs. Number 7, Lindsay Lohan. Starring in childhood hit The Parent Trap in 1998 sparked Lohan's career in Hollywood. Creating wholesome family flicks secured her spot in films such as Freaky Friday in 2003 and Confessions of a Teenage Drama Queen in 2014. Her performance in Mean Girls, written by Tina Fey, locked in her status as teen royalty. Her rise to fame wasn't without turbulence. Unfortunately, Lohan's well-known drug addiction and stints in rehab dampened her reputation, studios no longer offering her bubblegum teenager roles. Her last film was in the erotic thriller The Canyons in 2013. Number 8. Tobey Maguire. Tobey Maguire jumped into Hollywood and landed into the Spider-Man franchise. From 2002 to 2007, he played Peter Parker as the star in the superhero comic book film. While he played Spider-Man, he also starred in Seabiscuit. Looper reported that despite Maguire's laid-back, charming appearance, he might not have been a pleasure to work with on the set. According to V Magazine, James Franco interviewed Charlize Theron, who shared her thoughts about working with Tobey, while the two starred in Cider House Rules. Tobey and I had a bit of a rough time, yeah. I mean, we're good now. It was a difficult movie. With his last movie being The Great Gatsby in 2013, he hasn't been seen in anything since then. Number 9. Amanda Bynes. The child actor got her start by starring in the Nickelodeon sketch show All That from 2006 to 2010, earning Kids' Choice Awards and Critics' Choice Awards. She earned herself a spin-off show called The Amanda Show from 1999 to 2002. Her TV success continued on the WB show What I Like About You, and she continued to shine in movies such as What a Girl Wants and She's the Man. Unfortunately, she struggled with substance abuse and mental illness. In a confusing tweet storm, she stated that she was bipolar and that she was emotionally and physically abused by her dad. She retracted those statements. What we do know is that she hasn't been acting since then. And at number 10, Celo Greene. The musician and entertainer rose to fame in 2006 with his collaboration with Danger Mouse as Gnarls Barkley. They created Crazy, which dominated the airwaves for months. In 2010, he went off on his own and created the hit F.U., which went up to number 2 on the Billboard Hot 100. His success scored him a seat on The Voice, where he was a judge for hopeful singers. He judged voices good, bad, and ugly from 2011 to 2014. His opportunities were yanked from him, though, when he fired off anti-gay and misogynist tweets. His position on The Voice was immediately revoked, and he was promptly replaced. Through all the years, one thing is for certain. These celebrities have provided us with years of entertainment and intrigue both on and off the screen.